plan, and really, I think, start to get a sense of what you can become in the field of accounting. Years 3 and 4, I'm going to let my colleague, Dr. Brasich, Andrew, speak to.
Thanks, Matt. When I think of the last 2 years of our students' time at Gonzaga, particularly starting with the junior year, this is a period of tremendous growth. The first couple of years, we're kind of figuring out what we want to do, what we want to study, what we want to focus on. And then as we rise to the junior level, we're in our upper division classes, and we're focusing on being accountants. And we're going to get real technical, real rigorous. And what I see from our students is they're putting a lot into their education, in and outside of the classroom, and they're getting a lot out of it. And a lot of this ultimately leads to the success on the CPA exam test that my colleague Matt talked about earlier. At the same time, recruiting is in full force. And it's starting a little earlier, sometimes your sophomore year in the spring. But for certain, by the time we hit fall semester junior year, we have multiple firms. I think last year when we had our fall career fair, there were around 34 employers on campus just for accounting majors. And this is a process of tremendous professional growth that we see. And even when I sit back and I can compare accounting majors versus other majors across campus, I do see an exponential growth on the accounting side, not so much for anything that we're doing, but more or less the industry makes such a focus for on-campus recruiting. And it's just an incredible thing to see as these students go through this process, all at the same time, learning a lot of the fundamental concepts that they're going to be applying as a professional. So that's how I kind of view that. And then when we get to senior year, most are getting a job. Matt will go over some of the employment statistics in just a second, but most are getting a job. And then it's like, wow, you know, I've gotten through this big thing. I've learned a lot, and now I get to kind of focus and spend the little time I have left. And that last year always goes pretty quick with the friends and family, extended family I've made here at Gonzaga. You're on mute, Matt.
I'm going to share now about the undergraduate program. Our undergraduate program is 4 years along, parallel really to our business administration program. The university itself has a minimum 128 credit hour requirement, and 27 credits of those 128 minimum at Gonzaga would be in accounting classes at the upper division level. It's also important to highlight, though, the CPA track, because state CPA licenses are administered at the state level, and states have a 150 credit hour requirement for that professional designation. And so that opens up a need to explore alternative academic options if you want to go your licensure route, the certified public accounting licensure. Many of our students do that. Again, that's what the CPA exam is a gateway to, is ultimately getting that licensure. And you're looking at 150 credit hours to do that. Now, there are a number of ways to do that. We have students that double major, that come in with running start credits or AP credits, and they're able to navigate 150 credit hours in 4 years. We also have a large number of our students participate in our 3-2 program, which will ultimately, in the 5 years, leave you with a undergrad and graduate degree at Gonzaga, and of course the 150 credits you need to sit for the CPA exam. And what's nice about that 3-2 student, 3-2 approach to the graduate accounting is that you have an opportunity to start doing some of those graduate credits your senior year. It saves you some money on the graduate program overall, but in a lot of ways, I think importantly, it also frees up some schedule for your 5th year. And that's when a lot of our 3-2 students really dig in on the CPA exam and do great work in that area, as you've seen by the pass rates. We've got information here as far as the website to learn more. And I think most importantly, at the very end, the questions slide, you'll see Professor Brasich's and my email addresses. If you have any questions at all, don't feel like you have to go to the website and scour it for information. Please reach out and ask. In particular, on my side of things, I'm happy to answer questions about anything in our accounting program, but the undergraduate program for sure, feel free to reach out to me. And I think the same is true for any of our colleagues. So any of us introduced ourselves and find their email address, you're more than welcome to reach out to them, and they'll share lots of great information. I did want to share what our undergraduate curriculum looks like. As I mentioned, it's 27 credits. And here's the list of the classes. So you see the range of classes offered here. We've got intermediate series, typically during the junior year, the intermediate 1 and 2. In a lot of ways, that's really the meat and potatoes of the at least financial accounting side. That's the accounting focused for external stakeholders and financial statements. There's also a tax series that often runs, or typically for students runs parallel to that during the junior year, with the Federal Taxation 1, which is the individual taxation, and the Federal Taxation 2, which is the entity, partnerships, corporations, those being entities. In addition, we have the audit class, which is something we'll speak to a little bit as we get to career paths, but that is what one of the main tracks is in public accounting, to learn how to be an auditor and to verify that financial statements are indeed correct. And related to that, I would say, is also that information systems class, where you really learn the backbone for so many businesses, accounting systems nowadays is a technology backbone. And so you get a sense for the processes and the technology that really drive accounting for so many organizations. We've recently added a data analytics class, which I'll speak to in a little bit. And then the final class here, 2 classes, a cost accounting class, which is internal focused, decision-making within the organization, and an advanced financial accounting class to learn all those really, really cool technical accounting topics like derivatives and all sorts of intercompany transactions and things that we accountants really roll up the sleeves on. So that's the curriculum. It's a full curriculum, but there's a lot to cover. The CPA exam spans 4 sections. The accounting for businesses that are as complex as a company like Amazon requires a lot of knowledge. And that, again, kind of speaks to the rigor of what we try to get into the program. Next up, I'm going to speak a little bit to our graduates programs.
So earlier, Matt contacted me and sent the slide deck over and wanted me to set something up for the grad programs here. And looking at the slide deck, he had covered a lot of the data, right? Our CPA exam pass rate, our US News ranking. We've been as high, at least in my time here, as I think 13th in the country, and we're usually in the top 25. I can't remember a year that we weren't out of at least the top 30. And usually #1 in the Northwest. So I really kind of started to reflect on what I had seen in my experience as a teacher, I should say, in the graduate program, as well as the feedback I received from students and from employers when we talked to them about our graduates. And thinking about what we did, the core, some of the stuff that we do so effectively well. And admittedly, as Gerhard mentioned in his earlier slide, like our students are the best. Really what happens is you deliver to us great kids, and then we just kind of go through this process. They're already great. They come out great. I'd like to take more credit for it, but the reality is they're the ones that are working hard and putting things together. But when I think of the Gonzaga graduate program graduate, first, they're technical. And I hear often that they are the most technical of their incoming class at a firm or at Boeing or at Amazon when compared to others from other institutions. We get real deep at the grad level. It's real rigorous, and we're going to give you a very deep and technical body of knowledge. The second, when I think of our graduates, is curious to continue to learn, to apply these concepts that they've learned in tax or financial accounting and reporting, as well as agile. If you were to come to me in January and ask me about Zoom and my interest in it, I would have told you that I've heard of it. I probably don't need it because I have an iPhone and I have FaceTime. How quickly things can change for us. We have a lot of tools that help us in our job, a lot of technological tools that we need to implement that are rapidly changing. And so one of the skill sets that we're trying to instill is this ability to understand what kind of inputs and what kind of outputs I can get from different tools as they relate to my technical capacity as an accountant. And then as a new tool comes along, how I'm going to implement that as well. Finally, this is where my colleague, Professor Dehart, comes in pretty significant, is the ability of our students to articulate very technical concepts. We have an accounting advisory board. It's composed of professionals, both in firms and in industry. And we get feedback from them at least semi-annually. We actually have typically at least twice a year, meetings twice a year. And they have conveyed to us the importance of the ability of new professionals to articulate to either clients or another technical individual in the field, and knowing their audience and doing it effectively. And so we've implemented, with I would view as Dr. Weber setting up a very flexible curriculum. As things are changing, we're adding classes, we're pulling classes, we're using our exceptional faculty for a lot of the core, and then bringing in adjuncts who bring a practical application perspective to what we're actually doing, and making our graduate not just a great debits and credits individual, but also a rounded professional who will have a lot of opportunities for growth going forward. You can see here there are 2 links for information to both program, and as Dr. Hoag mentioned earlier, I'm happy to answer any questions directly. You'll have my email at the end of the slide.
Great, thank you. We wanted to share some opportunities in our curriculum for students to really engage with the content, as Andrew mentioned, in a hands-on way and a deep and technical way. I had referenced the data analytics course. So several years ago, as we discussed with our advisory board that Professor Brasich referenced, the use of technology and data analytics in the profession, and began to see very quickly really that there was a program need to have more analytics, to get students in labs working with some of the current software and applications that companies are doing now. And so I worked with my colleagues to launch, actually 2 years ago, the data analytics class. It's now a class I teach. We do things where we look at how drones are used to do inventory accounts in accounting, for instance, and how you can have computer programs scan a picture of 3,000 head of sheep and recognize that there are 3,000 head of sheep in that picture. And the profession continues to evolve and change by the day. And so that is a class very much, Professor Brasich referenced the masters pulling out classes and content to keep everything current. This is a class that will stay, but certainly the exercises and activities will be updated to stay current with the practice. Professor DeHart's going to talk about what she is doing with sustainability and professional writing. Oh, you're on mute.
Here we go.
Yep.
Sustainability accounting is a really exciting and relatively new field within the accounting profession. And accountants have always been really good at measuring financial performance. So why not get involved in measuring sustainability performance? And sustainability really is a broad term. It includes more than just environmental issues. It also includes social issues such as drug safety and ethical material sourcing, et cetera, et cetera. So it's a subject I'm really passionate about, and I have a credential in the field, and that's a credential that you could earn too in the future if you're interested. And then Professor Brasich already talked about professional writing. That's a 1-credit class that I teach in the graduate accounting programs. And really what I try to help students do is get really good at expressing complex ideas in layperson's terms. And that's really a skill. And so the class gives students the opportunity to develop that skill.
So this next item, there's a lot of cool things going on here. This is probably one of the coolest things. So I don't know, and Dr. Curran is on the phone or on the line, but I'm going to guess maybe around 10 years ago, she's having a conversation with a friend of hers in law enforcement. And it led to a discussion about how there were some financial frauds happening. Maybe a secretary at a nonprofit was skimming some money off the top of the donations, and over time had taken, I don't know, let's say $15,000 over a couple of years. And the amounts were significant to the nonprofit, but they weren't significant enough to merit bringing in a CFE, a certified fraud examiner, and paying them their hourly rate to just build a case and ultimately prosecute that individual. And so they developed this program, and it's a collaboration between students and local law enforcement. and they take case files that are too small for professionals, but big enough to matter, and investigate them. And the students are working hand in hand with local law enforcement, and we've led to a number of prosecutions and some monetary recoveries. And I'm gonna actually let her hop in if she wants to. Maybe I'll cover this overall, but it's also a first of its kind program in the country. We were getting phone calls from a variety of institutions across the country on how can we implement something this cool. Our accounting majors, as well as our grad students, have the opportunity to participate in this. Did you want to add anything to that, Sarah?
Only that the skill set that the students pick up in this program is a valuable skill set, not just for forensic accounting. So a lot of the skills that you would use in the world of forensic accounting and in this fraud victims project involve things such as being able to understand the documents or dig through a big box of documents that somebody handed you that wasn't an accountant. So they bring you all of this stuff. They're not sure what qualifies as evidence, what doesn't qualify as evidence. And so you get the skills of interviewing, because you talk to the victim and try to find out what happened. You get skills about organizing documents, understanding what you might be looking at. You get skills in brainstorming fraud, which is very useful in the world of audit, even if you're not going into the world of forensic accounting, because that's giving you a mindset and a way of looking at businesses to see where they might have opportunities for fraud, that you can help them say, hey, this is probably something you want to put some controls and checks and balances in place to prevent fraud in the future. And then lastly, you pick up this wonderful skill of documentation. That is, how do I organize and present what I've learned in this class in a manner that's going to allow me to deliver a final product either to a prosecuting attorney or to an FBI agent, or to a judge, or to a jury, or if you're going into tax, how am I going to present these tax options to my client? If you're going into audit, how do I bring this to the board of directors and say, hey, here are the areas we think you need to tighten things up a little bit. So there's some great writing skills in there, some great organizing skills in there, and wonderful documentation skills. So that's sort of an added benefit for students who participate in this class.
Great, thank you. The next two items, and I know we're running out of time here, so I'll be brief. That first says VITA, that's the Volunteer Income Tax Assistance Program. That's a program that the IRS offers. On a given year, we'll have between 60 and 80 accounting majors go to this program, get certified, and they help low and middle income individuals get their tax returns prepared for free. And we work at the United Way, collaboration with the United Way, which is really close to campus. And in most years, we will file, or at least that site will file, over 800 returns. We generate about $1.1 to $1.2 million in refunds. And we'll give about, total service hours could be anywhere from 700 to 850 in a given year. Really, really awesome program. And similar to the Justice for Fraud Victims Project, you get real practical experience dealing with people, learning about the importance of confidentiality, and a lot of face-to-face interaction, and having impact for people that, you know, getting a tax refund that seemed overwhelming, or having to go to an H&R Block or something like that and pay a lot of money. It is very real money to them, particularly when you look at what we call the Earned Income Tax Credit. That second item on that bullet point is the Federal Tax Clinic. Similar scenario. We're looking primarily at MTax students, Masters of Science in Tax students, working with law students. This actual program is federally funded out of the law school, where we take on lower income tax clients who are being pursued by the IRS for not paying their taxes and defend them in this program. Another great way to learn a lot about the system. And then Dr. Hogus at the bottom, internships and summer leadership. I mentioned earlier about the recruiting process. It starts earlier and earlier, it seems, every year. When I was a student, it was fall, junior year. Now it's almost more spring, sophomore year. But as I mentioned, multiple firms come on campus. They offer internships. It's not just accounting firms. We have Boeing. We've had placed some interns at Amazon, Starbucks, and we'll look later at actual locations, not limited to those companies, but being close to Seattle, that's usually our primary placement spot. So really great opportunities. I'll pass it off back to you, Max. I know we're running out of time.
Oh, you're good. You've seen and heard about the placement rates already. Our undergrad students do really, really well, as also with a 90% placement rate within 3 to 6 months. Our students have achieved some really cool accolades. We recently had a FASB fellow just this year, an Elijah Watt Sells Award winner. You're talking like the top, it's technically even less than 0.5% performance on the CPA exam nationwide. Our students pursue opportunities in public accounting with the large accounting firms, with the regionals or even local firms, finding a fit, as you've hopefully through this Gonzaga experience really got a good sense of your priorities and who you are and what that kind of ideal fit for you is. As Andrew mentioned, we have 30 plus firms accounting in public, in industry and corporate sector, even government, FBI has been on campus. I know that Department of Legislative Audit in Alaska has had students. The Department of Revenue for a number of different states has had ZAG alums. And then we have students that have a very nonprofit focus as well and land at nonprofits. We've got an alum from around Professor Brasich in my year that works at Gates Foundation, does a lot of really cool finance stuff for Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. Our students go out, I think many of them go where they come from, but lots of students like to find a new opportunity outside of school. And so you see some of those recent destinations where our students have landed. I think perhaps coolest out of all of that is we've sent, I think it's about 10 students to London.
Yeah, we developed a bit of a pipeline to an accounting firm in London, and we keep feeding them there. So internships and full-time.
The firm's loving it. Our students love that experience. So it's really neat. So speaking of students, we're going to end at least the kind of prepared part of the presentation here with a student of ours to speak to his time in our program.
Thanks. I'll try and be brief, but I know we're running a little low on time. So before I came to Gonzaga, I knew I wanted to do accounting, and I knew that the program was really highly regarded. It helped a lot in my decision making, not only to just come to the school, but also enroll in both the undergraduate and graduate programs. And I just want to say overall that it's lived up to and exceeded all my expectations. So like I said, I just finished up my undergrad degree. I took advantage of a lot of the things that were discussed earlier in the presentation, the 3-2 program, the VITA program, all sorts of different things. And I think Professor Brasich really touched on it, that what you put into your time here is really what you get out, and there's so much for you to participate in. I think it's a really valuable experience. So I just want to talk about a few things that really made the program stand out. And the first one is the faculty. It sounds pretty standard, but they've been the biggest reason that my experience here has been so great. The classes are small enough that you get to know your classmates and professors by name, and in return, the professors really, from day one, they try to get to know their students. It's super beneficial to have faculty who are willing to work with you through difficult material, but also things beyond that. So I've had faculty help me as my faculty advisors, and in my later years, I've helped them, or they've helped me with my job search, and personally as well. So they're really there for you, and I've had the opportunity to work alongside a lot of them. They're really here to help you, and they will go to great lengths to make sure that you're successful during your time here, and I've experienced that firsthand. The second thing I want to just talk about is the curriculum, which I know both Professor Hogue and Brasich talked about earlier, but I think it just makes it a really great time to enroll in our program because of the ever-changing and improving curriculum. I think that every course that I've taken, I feel has added value to not only my academic repertoire, but also given me skills that I'll be able to take into the real world. And as mentioned earlier, newly adopted courses are always coming, and I think they're really necessary for graduates today. And they're not just rushed either. Some of my favorite courses have been those newly added courses, and I think it's constantly going in a great direction. The final thing I want to touch on is the opportunities for both on-campus stuff and also recruiting. So I just, like I mentioned, I've been able to take advantage of a lot of the things, but also I've secured an internship offer for the summer through our on-campus recruiting. career fairs. I've attended professional conferences to kind of expand my professional skill set. So really there's a lot to do. It'll keep you busy. It's hard work, but it always pays off in the end. And it's been super awesome for me. And I know for those of you who are deciding, the decision's coming up fast and it's a big decision, but I was there as well. And I would encourage you to reach out with any questions. And obviously we'd love for you to attend, and I hope to see some of you around campus next year.
Great. Thank you so much, Nick. Really appreciate it. So we reach our questions portion. I know at least I had seen one document that said 5 and another maybe that said 5:15, but I'm certainly happy to stick around for a little bit. So I think Suzelle, you were going to help facilitate this.
Yes. So yes, if I can just ask faculty to stay for an extra like 5-10 minutes. I know a lot of the students had questions about our accounting program, and so if you could hang on, that would definitely be great. So if you came in a little bit later, my name is Lucelle Aguilar. I'm an admission counselor here at Gonzaga. I'll be moderating the FAQ. So we'll go, let's just say 5:10 to just do 10 minutes of questions. If we don't have 10 minutes of questions, we'll end a little bit earlier. So at the bottom section, you'll just want to type your questions into the chat, and then I'll ask that of the group. So once I get a first question there, all the faculty added some more information about them, and I feel a little left out, so I want to add that. I'm also a Gonzaga alum. I am originally from the Bay Area. I'm actually working remotely from the Bay Area, which is great. I get to see my family, do the things that I love to do, which is work at Gonzaga, as well as just be in California with my family, which is wonderful. Let's go ahead and take a look at the chat. No questions have come up. One question that I do get often at college fairs, we can start there. The biggest question is internships. When people are eligible for internships, is there a specific semester in school, or is it by credit hours? Some students have definitely been confused on that.
Yeah. That's a good question. As Andrew mentioned, the internships and summer leadership have kind of crept earlier in the schooling. So they now occur for many of our students starting sophomore year. We have, and you saw a reference to it on Nick's introduction, he was a director for what's known as Beta Alpha Psi. Beta Alpha Psi is our honorary accounting society. And that's where a lot of the networking events are kind of facilitated too within that. What we've also kind of shifted to is that we've had students begin engagement with Beta Alpha Psi earlier because the recruiting occurs earlier. There are students I have had as advisees that do internships between freshman and sophomore year, but those are certainly, I would say, on the rare end. But you will see students that would do a summer leadership between their junior and senior year, and then an internship between their senior year and fifth year. A student on a 4-year plan would do a summer leadership program potentially as early as the summer after their sophomore year, internship between junior, senior, and then graduate with 150, sit for the exam, and start a new job fall, within a few months of graduation. Anything to add to from my colleagues, feel free.
Nothing to add, but Zucel, we do have a question on the chat, it looks like.
So a student asked, they saw a class that was a 3-credit class and asking if we are a semester. We are a semester course. I remember seeing that class as well. It goes into, the amount of credits goes into like the kind of class and the workload within there and the expectations. But I can definitely ask that of our faculty.
Yeah, basically, yeah, so we are in the semester credit. And so when you get to upper division, your first 2 years, you're doing core classes. You will do 2 fundamental or principles of accounting courses during your freshman and sophomore year. What Dr. Hogue showed you was our upper division classes, and it's basically 6 credits a semester or 2 classes per semester. And then one of those semesters, you'll take a 3rd accounting class. That's how that works out. So in total, you'll have 4 your junior year, or 5, or 4 or 5 your senior year to get the total of what we have 9 classes at 3 credits each.
Yeah, and we'll have students that want to come in and say, well, this is a lot. I want to do the 150. I also really want to do study abroad. And that's very possible. We've made it work. I think the biggest recommendation for any student that's interested in accounting period is to connect with an accounting faculty member to begin talking about your own personal interests soon. I mean, right off the bat, I think, again, a hallmark of our program, we've got the rigor, but it's also that we personalize it to you and your interests. The model for advising in the School of Business is that we have a standard freshman and sophomore advisor School of Business wide while you're going through the foundation classes to apply essentially or to be admitted for upper division accounting coursework. And then you're assigned an advisor in the major. So junior year, you would formally get an accounting advisor, but there's no reason that you have to wait until junior year. And we're happy to talk with you about your own interests and make sure that we help you script an accounting academic plan that can deliver on everything you want to do while you're here, including study abroad.
Yeah, and then there's another question here. Can you meet the requirements for the CPA exam with the MIS concentration? Generally, no. Although
Not by itself, yeah.
Yeah, not by itself. What you could do is be an MIS concentration. And when I was at Gonzaga as a student, I double majored in MIS and accounting. I think that's an incredible combination. What you would need to do above and beyond your MIS major is to take certain accounting classes that would be required under the educational requirements of whichever state board that you want to apply to get your CPA exam. The CPA exam is uniform, but different state boards have different requirements as far as education and experience goes. That's something we could look at once you get on campus, the details, if you want to go to California or something like that. And on that, the next one says, if you have an AA degree, where does that place you on track for the CPA? Well, usually you're coming in as a junior. And so you're going to have all those prerequisite courses. You're going to hop right in junior year and just start taking the upper division classes. A lot of people, and I think Nick, you didn't have an AA, but you took quite a few classes.
I had an AA, so I did that track.
Yeah.
I came in last year as a junior standing and was in my intermediate courses, and then finished on my undergrad in 2 years. And that put me around 130 credits, and that's why I'm now doing the master for technically my 3rd or 5th year to get that 150.
Yeah, we'll have quite a few students that do either come in with credits from their senior year of high school or with an AA, or just had taken some community college credits. That's never been an issue. Do you have to apply to the business school? No, you do not. You do not. You are in. We don't do a simple application process. We view accounting as a very unique area. It's like something you probably haven't done before. I would say even if you've taken a high school accounting class, the level that you're going to get here is going to be a lot deeper and a lot different. So past performance isn't always indicative of future success, particularly in this arena. So we're going to give everyone a shot at doing it for sure. I have another question here. How do you apply to the business school? You just apply to Gonzaga. And once you're in, welcome to the big time. You just declare a business major. You can declare an accounting major. And that goes through the registrar's office. And from that point on, you are official.
Yeah, I'll add quickly to that. Your sophomore year and freshman year, there are foundational business classes that you take as prerequisites to the upper division coursework in the School of Business. And so there is a threshold GPA requirement, with those foundational classes to progress on into the upper division accounting coursework. But as Andrew mentioned, it's not a formal application.
Question here, and maybe it looks like Sarah answered it, but who should we contact if you're interested in forensic accounting or working for the FBI? Dr. Kern has given her email. She has a lot of contacts in that area. And so she can help you out with that, sounds like. Next one I saw on the slide, the CPA track requires 150 hours with the double major option. Does the other major have to be related to business and accounting? Answer, no. You can be credits in anything. The idea here, and all 50 states have adopted this 5-year, 150 credit hour scenario. It doesn't mean you have to be around for 5 years. A lot of people are getting it done in 4. Some are getting a master's, obviously, as we talked about. But if you are a major in accounting, you're checking off all the specific requirements. The only thing you have left is to get to 150 credits. You can go major in art if you want to. And we have students that do that in a variety of things, or maybe have a couple minors for sure. Final question I have here.
Great, we had another question.
Go ahead, Susan. Go ahead. You got it. You got it.
If I'm coming in with an AA in business administration from Running Start, can I finish the 150 credits within the next 2 years?
I think just that would really depend. So a full load for undergrad is 18 credits in a semester. So you are able to do 72 credits at Gonzaga over your last 4 semesters if you come in as a junior in the fall. So it would really depend on, do you have the 78 credits equivalent, or potentially looking at summer school. And so, I was a case where I did 4 years, without transferring in. It was really a matter of, what credits do you come in with? And then can you get that extra threshold? I did a total of 9 credits over summers, just because it was either that or do the graduate program. And for me and my fit, the 4-year program approach made more sense. So that's I think a great opportunity to meet with your advisor and look at what's possible, look at summer options. That first summer, you have an opportunity to maybe even do continued learning at a community college, or the community college you got your AA from, or something to that extent. So there's a lot of flexibility. As long as you do the accounting curriculum over your junior and senior years, you'll have, as Brasich mentioned, the specifics checked off. It's just a matter of hitting that 150 credits. And just full-time student-wise, you can do 72 hours without doing any summer classes as an absolute max over those, without doing any overload or anything like that.
Yeah, and I would add, if you want to do that, that's pretty intense. Not your college experience is not entirely in the classroom, right? So if you're maxing out credits and just going hardcore, I think you risk losing some other experiences on campus. And I know cost is a concern, but this is kind of part of a broader conversation of what's important. So I would say that. Go ahead.
And I also
all really great advice. We do have an academic advising and assistance office who primarily work with, planning for your degree and then really getting that academic advice. I will send their email in the chat. You can definitely schedule a phone call or a Zoom meeting with them and kind of go over that. But Dr. Brasich did make a good point that you can definitely add more classes to your course load, but it'll change your experience. There is one final question in there. In consideration of time, that will be the last question, but when do students typically take the CPA exam is our last question.
Students will take the CPA exam if on a 4-year track. You'll have students potentially taking it during that final spring semester of their senior year on campus. Again, I referenced earlier, it's 4 separate sections. So they would maybe take 1 section. I've had real chomping at the bit students maybe try to take 2 in that spring semester and then wrap it up over that summer before starting work in the fall. As I mentioned, I think one of the perks of the 3-2 program approach for graduate school, which again really references 3 years of 100% undergrad, and then your 4th year, your senior year, you begin taking graduate classes, meaning you've got less graduate credits to take your 5th year. So it's still a 5-year approach, but most of our Gonzaga, or I should say at least many of our Gonzaga undergrad students do that 3-2 option for the 5th year. And we have many students in the graduate program graduate from the graduate program with the CPA exam done. They've been able to finish it over the course of that year. Every state's a little different, so it is somewhat dependent on where you intend to go. Washington, you can start taking the CPA exam within 6 months of your intended graduation, for instance, and other states may have different stipulations around the education as a first step to signing up for the exam. But that's where, again, we're very happy to work with you on your individualized plan, and even kind of helping you kind of map out what weeks look best to try to do this. Again, it's something that I think a lot of us really enjoy, those opportunities to connect and help make sure the experience is one that fits exactly what you're trying to accomplish. So with that, just you've got Professor Brasich and my email address is here. I know Professor Kern shared her in the chat for those of you maybe that want to pop in and grab it, especially around the forensic lab. And you can obviously find us on the accounting website. if you've got any questions for Nick, our awesome student, you can reach out to me and I can certainly help connect you to him. I know that he's happy to talk about our program and his experience here further as well. And again, I just want to thank you all for your time and for sharing this evening, Friday, with us. And have a wonderful weekend. We all are sending our very best. Stay healthy and happy.
Are we staying on, Matt? Do you know? I forget what Zusel said.
I don't think we have to. So I was just kind of hanging in case any students here had like a last minute question that I could hang around for.
Gotcha.
But yeah, otherwise I think we're good. Thank you so much, everyone.
No, thank you, man.
Yeah. Andrea, Zach, I see you still hanging out here. Are you any questions I can help you with?
All right. I think that's it.
We'll call it a night.
Yeah. Cheers.
Cheers. Good night.